Look what we have here. It's a co-op bike. Co-op? What is co-op? Where did co-op come from? You'll see them on the used market, and if not really close to what a REI, you probably have no idea what a co-op bike is. Well, it's a house brand, but let's review where the history of the co-op bike comes from, in addition to this awesome little hybrid. And is it okay to buy from those, REI, Dick's Sporting Goods, those kinds of places? Do they provide a decent bike? Now, let's review what co-op is and those particular values you may be able to find in your neck of the woods, either used or new in this particular market, after this. Welcome to I Know a Guy Bicycles, hanging out with a guy. Hi, I'm Justin the Guy. Obviously I have a garage shop. Take scary out of used, one bike at a time. If you want to be kept up to date on latest projects and topics, please like and subscribe. Hey, welcome back to I Know a Guy Bicycles, hanging with a guy. Hey, I'm Justin the Guy on this old bike series, and this is not so old, but hey, this is something I want to talk about coming across one of these particular models and brands. It's one of those situations where you're like, what is this? Because the Schwinn, the Trek, the Specialized, Mongoose, and Giant, all those particular brands, but what is co-op? That's a good question. If you're not in like the mountain, road, any kind of cycling circles, this particular brand probably might stump you up. And quite honestly, it's a pretty decent value. They're not super cheap when they're brand new, but in the used market, you don't need to shy away from them, especially if you're just looking for a recreational style bike. So that's, it could be definitely a win-win for you. And also, it's made in, in the same place where all the other bikes are made overseas in any case. So if you're looking for something used, co-op is actually not bad brand. What is co-op? Well, co-op is basically off of the REI brand bike, which they sell in their REI stores. Well, REI is like the quiet little bike shop because they do, a lot of people know them for like hiking and camping and climbing and all these other events, like outdoorsy store. Well, they have a bike shop in there, as well as, Dick's Sporting Goods has their Shields as well. The Sports Authority used to, when they used to be. So there are different variations of those particular brands being sold in those particular big box chain stores, in a sense. Is it better than the Walmart and the Target bikes? Yes. So it is the next level up. Is it better than your local bike shop? Probably not, but there's a lot of good individuals that came from the cycling industry that do work at REI in their cycling department. So with REI, they do have a little more of an up game in their service and building a product mix than probably some other ones where, for example, I walked into a Dick's Sporting Goods. It's a smaller one here, but it looked like they had a little builder station. They obviously don't do service. It's basically just assembly area that put the bikes together that go on the floor. Shields has a full service department, and they do provide services as well. And they also Trek's biggest dealer besides Trek. So when you're looking at that particular perspective, sure. When you're looking at Sports Authority, they used to have a decent bike-ish department, kind of equivalent to what Performance Bike was back in the day. But REI it's a little bit stepped up. They have a little bit better company. They'll do all like the sealants and tune-ups and shipping bikes and all that stuff like your normal bike shop. So if that is the only available shop near you in your neck of the woods, it's actually a pretty good area to pretty good shop to check into if you need service, or in addition to looking for a bike. And they do carry a plethora of different accessories. They actually do carry some Trek products as well as their accessory line, but they're not their bikes, except for their Electra Cruiser line, which they carry there as well. Now, I've seen, and also REI recently, is Salsa and a couple other brands. But going back to co-op, what is co-op? Well, co-op is kind of like their house brand with all their other kind of touch feel points of different product mix, right? So I'll probably have a big long conversation with a buddy of mine, John Bradley, about house brands in the future here, so look for that. But for right now, the house brand from co-op used to be Navara. Navara was the brand that they used, brand name anyway. Not really sure with the origins. They probably bought the small company and just used their names throughout their chain as a house brand for years. Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, put it down in the comments below. But a few years back, they switched, kind of revamped their branding. So they're like, oh, we're going to add like co-op. So kind of a outreach to customers. It's really just a customer campaign. Like, you're going to be part of this cooperative with REI, be part of this. So you pay like your 20 bucks or whatever and be part of their membership, get the extra exclusive discounts and all that. A lot of the same thing with a lot of other companies, but they actually tied in their bike line as in from Navara to co-op. Any case, should you shy away from these bikes? No, actually, they're made either from Giant or Merida, which is one of the two manufacturers. They're not a Chinese-made bike. They're definitely stamped made in Taiwan somewhere in there, I'm pretty sure. And it has your general same mix. Basically, they're copying the same lines as Trek and Specialized. They don't have the full huge mega line like the Trek does with all the different styles and carbons and all that. You're not going to see a co-op and a Tour de France, but you're going to see a whole bunch of them on the bike path and recreational riding, dirt roads, gravel riding. They have bikes out there for that kind of thing. So it's usually it's a good mid entry level, and they're probably just priced a little cheaper. And they do have like the service packages and warranties and all those things like Trek and Specialized and Giant and so forth. So as a good alternative from going to the Trek store or the Specialized store, you want to check out REI. And essentially, that's the same kind of thing for the mid-range to low end. They also have a whole bunch of kids bikes. Actually, they probably have a better kids bike selection than the Trek stores and Specialized stores because they're a little bit more selling more higher end stuff. And yeah, you saw that. In any case, looking at this particular one, this is actually a tune-up. So thank you for my customers that come in. And they brought two. They also bought a Ghost, which is behind me, which I already finished the tune-up on that one. Ghost is also, well, Ghost is a company that's owned by Pond Holdings, which is put in Dick's Sporting Goods, or was in for Dick's Sporting Goods. They've been kind of doing a little shell game shuffle between the different companies, where Mongoose is being pulled out, GT is being pulled out, and Mongoose is being put in. But same company, Pond Holdings, but different brands, whatever. Pond Holdings, if you don't know, they carry like 20 or 30 different bike affiliate brands, from Mongoose to Schwinn to Cervelo to Santa Cruz. So big range, and they have other little companies that kind of filter in there as well. They also are the Porsche and Audi owners. Yeah, and yeah, some people are like, oh, they're a distributor or whatever. No, they are the owners. They're based out of Germany, and they're the little quiet big giant in the room where it's going to pretty much scare the pants off of Specialized and Trek, and they do compete with Canyon because they're kind of in the same neighborhood. Any case, back to this particular one. This is, well, I'm going to talk about the style of this bike. Back in the 90s, they had hybrids, and now it was like not a good mountain bike, not a good, kind of like the straight bar mountain bike, but not a good road bike. Well, road bike size wheels, a little bit wider. It was like your pre-gravel-ish bike, the hybrid. Well, lo and behold, 20, 30 years later, you got yourself like 5 different models within that hybrid spectrum. Okay, you got your traditional road hybrid, which is mainly for road, pavement, bike paths, maybe a little light gravel, hard packed dirt roads, but they have a little bit skinnier tire, smoother tread, no suspension, that kind of thing. A little more maybe road gearing on the componentry. Then you got into like what they call dual sport. Dual sport will come with a suspension like this guy, and it still has the mountain bike tradition, but it's still the 700C. This is the precursor to the 29ers, in any case. So it does not have the wide range like a 29er, of course, but it has a wider range, and I believe these are probably 40s or 42Cs, a little bit wider tire. What that means, yep, 40Cs. Gives you a little more comfort, a little gravel bite if you're doing a little more dirt roads, camping, that kind of thing, like trail riding. This is a beautiful bike for that kind of stuff. They usually don't make really high ends of these, although Specialized and Trek do have some higher end versions of all those. And then they have like the Dual Sport, the gravel style. I mean, they had like three. I mean, I really got confused because, you know, you're adding way too many SKUs, and according to Trek, currently are going to cut those back, so that might be one of those deals. But in any case, back to this bike here. This bike has Shimano componentry with Serra, with disc brakes, hydraulic disc brakes, actually good stuff. And it's what, 20, it's 8-speed back with 3 up front, so you got that wider range gear. And this does have like the ladies style cut through or step through frame, if you will. Panda suspension from Suntour, which is on the majority of your mid-range to low-end bikes. Suntour is the shock. Above that, it's usually RockShox, Fox, or what have you. In any case, it has a decent little fork, disc brakes. So for a little bike like this, it's not bad. I mean, do you need more than this? I mean, not need. Want? Sure. Lighter frame, better wheels, more gears, but actually need for recreational riding. This is a great bike for just, if you're going to go camping, tooling around, something like that. Absolutely. So you got that range. You got kind of the mountain style range for componentry on this for climbing hills and so forth. The hydraulic brakes are a benefit of the cable actuated. So those are actually a nice little upgrade. And there's a Shimano branding. So the other one had Tektro, which that Ghost was actually not bad. Very similar bike kind of thing. So you got different brands that make very similar, and quite honestly, they're probably made in the Merida factory or the Giant factory in Taiwan for those particular ones. A lot of bikes that are made in China specifically, mainland China. They're more of the lower end, kind of like department store, Walmart bikes or Target bikes. So that's kind of where you get the delineation and difference between those. But when you look at this particular one, the Co-op, not bad deal. And actually, you know, it's one of those situations on this particular bike where it came in for a tune-up. They've had it for a couple of years with very light riding. The other one, if it's anything like the other one, it's very, you know, a couple things that need to be addressed. Very minor though, and that's where you get that light tune-up, basic tune-up, that kind of tune-up, which is around $50 to $100. They have done just to make a double check safety. Did it really need it? It probably could have gone a little bit longer. But there was a couple things that I caught on that one where the pipe plate in the back was broken off, so that needed to be removed because it was starting to deteriorate and get caught up in the gears. So the wheels needed a little bit of truing. The drivetrain could have used a good cleaning, got all that gunk off there for preventive wear, and also a nice light lube put on there to actually give more shifting and so forth. But the brake pads were awesome. They really didn't need too much work there, but they did clean the rotors and clean the pads, so you're going to prevention of contaminants, squealing, and that kind of thing. The hubs are actually, so the builds on these, okay, so where they're getting built at? Well, this one got built at Dick's Sporting Goods. This one got built, obviously, at REI, because we're talking about that. Okay, do they build a decent bike? Sure. Probably just as good-ish as builders that you would see at the Trek corporate stores or Specialized corporate stores. Reason being, they have the same kind of training programs and so forth from the manufacturers. Now they know them and put them together. It's kind of now it's better a step up than the person that put together the lawnmowers or grills at your Home Depot or Lowe's. But they're a little more, you know, they're all kind of. They are in the bike shop environment within that sporting good chain, which is kind of cool. So in a sense there, they got the, you know, they probably wear multiple hats during the year. They do bikes in the summer and work on skis in the winter, that kind of thing. But do you question the builds? No, they're going to be about the same. And even a lot of bike shops with high volume, you know, they do put, you know, they have checklists and doubles and all that. But quite honestly, they all are doing the same kind of unpacking, putting it together, double checking the specs and all that. And it's okay to do that nowadays, because back in the day when I was building bikes in the 90s, there was a lot more involved because they didn't pay somebody overseas to put all the little parts on there. It was more of a build from frame up, almost-ish. These are a little less, and the reason why they've gotten so good at packing up bikes and shipping is driven by Canyon, which does direct consumer. Basically, you get your nice $5,000 bike, and you basically do 3 or 4 things on it, and you're on the road in 30 minutes. That concept is actually trickled into all the bike manufacturing in Merida and Giant at this point. So technically, if this bike was shipped to you in a box and you had a little bit of intro video of how to put it together, you can probably do it yourself. It'd be very similar, kinda, as a bike shop. Well, what the bike shop does, though, since they are very familiar with the models that they're actually putting together, if there is anything that sticks out that didn't quite make the cut during shipping or manufacturing, they're able to address it there. Except for you at home, if you get it directly shipped to your house, and you're kind of stuck with, oh, I need to go to a shop or contact a company or what have you. So in any case, the quality of building those bikes have increased so much over the years that direct-to-consumer sales have actually work out. And it's actually one of those things where a company could, which in case in point, Kona did, but they stopped doing it, switch gears from, okay, we have our bikes, and Specialized as well as the later one, took their bike line and was like, okay, we can just go direct to consumer, make a couple videos, and boom, we're at the start of the gate, and we're doing it right off the bat. So, any case. But I'm just going to do a quick review of once this bike is disassembled and the parts I need to actually address. I'm just going to take the chain and cassette off and put it in ultrasonic cleaner, clean that, take the wheels, give them a good washing, clean the rotors, true them, also take the pads out, clean those out as well. I have a quick maintenance video you can check out, and I'll put that in the description below, of what you can do at home for general maintenance and kind of general good knowledge of what you should know about your bike. And then we'll just do a recap review. So without further ado, let me dive into this and get it all cleaned up for you and show how disassembled what a basic tune-up would look like too. Well, here we have it. Used some surface cleaner, some wax. I did decide to put on the wheels and armor on the tires. So look at these wheels. They were in pretty good shape. I mean, obviously they haven't been used too much, taken care of, but look at how clean, everything cleaned up, and alcohol cleaned the rotors, ceramic coated the rims, spokes, and hubs, and also put Armor All on the sidewalls to prevent any kind of dry rot or damage from the UV in Colorado. So, and there's the cassette and skewers, ultrasonic clean those. Those cleaned up really well. And the chain, look, it's almost like brand new. Got all that factory grease off of there, so it's ready for its actual like a professional lube for bicycles. And then we cleaned and burned off the disc brake pads by using rubbing alcohol. And now we cleaned all the frame bits, used a flush system using grime wave from lithium, which is kind of a engine block cleaner where it has mixed parts. Start with that, then did additional wipe down and cleaning, rinsed it with water, and now we have a light ceramic coating on the frame and also the parts. So I wanted to identify putting a ceramic coating on these little bits here. What's that dullness? I haven't knocked it down yet, which means wiping it off with a cloth, and you can see how shiny it is becoming. Well, ceramic coatings are good for, shininess and smoothness to the touch, but what the real importance is, it prevents the UV from breaking down the coloring and also damaging those parts. So when you're looking at plastics, it's fine to put on those. Matte finishes as well. You kind of see how it's, and this is a matte finish on this bike, and you can see it's really not changing or high glossing the matte. It is a little bit glossier than the original, but it's going to protect that paint from discoloring. Also the rim or the fork here as well just gives it that extra shine and clean. In other words, I put on all these little parts for protection just to make it additional protection, safety, but also it adds a nice shine, polished look. That's the little extra step that I do to get these bikes in more pristine. Even in a case like this, which is just more of the basic standard tune, put a little extra uplift, because when you're looking at a bike like this where it doesn't take a lot of work to get it going, I put a little extra. I mean, it's all about time, right? So I'll take the same amount of time, and if it doesn't need a lot of technical addressing, I do add different levels of ceramic coating and protection and preventiveness too. So there you go. That's the parts, and let's reassemble and do a recap of what we find, concluding after this. Well, there we have it, right? Spectacular end result. It's awesome when I have a bike that's you can put a little extra something into the detailing and so forth, and you're not tied up on some derailleur issue or brake issue, and add more preventative maintenance. So when you get a standard tune, it's one of those situations, it's more of a preventative maintenance perspective scenario. So when you're looking at like a Co-op or a Ghost or a Trek or Specialized, whatever brand that may be a little bit nicer quality, it is still, even though they may not had any issues, they had a forward thinking like, let's get this tuned up and make sure it's, everything's been addressed, which it has. And it's got the shifting down, it's smooth, got fresh lube that's actually a bike specific lube versus the manufacturer grease packaging, which is what they do. It's a little stickier. I mean, it works okay, but it does attract a lot of gunk. This will hopefully stay a little bit dry for them. Get those pads cleaned off. They were pretty dirty, and got the rotors cleaned off as well, so they have the best braking performance possible, and also double check their line. The wheels were just a little out of true, nothing too major, so that was actually a pretty good win. Hubs were good, bottom bracket's good, headset's good. Shifting, everything is pretty much rock solid, just minor adjustments. Why would you need a basic tune? Well, like those little things could add up to be problematic later on, causing damage to either rotors, brakes, or chain, that kind of thing, drivetrain, so forth. So yeah, I know it's like, oh, Brandon, man, it's sure. Well, if you have your basic tune-ups, $50 will save you definitely that down the road. If you wore out your cassette and your chain faster, just for example, or your brake pads wore unevenly and you had to have those replaced, that's the cost right there. So in a sense, between the parts costs of preventative maintenance, you save that on the front end. Also, you have a better experience riding. In addition to, it's safe, which is a number one part. In addition to, when we do any tune, all bike shops should be double checking all the bolts, make sure they're properly torqued. Headset bolts, bottom bracket, cranks, pedals even. Sometimes they don't get on there tight enough, and they'll come off while you're riding, which is not a very good thing. Well, looking at the brand of Co-op, this particular model, the 2.1 City, I think it's, the City one from Co-op, is very comparable to like the Trek version. I'll post those here, as well as the Specialized as kind of a reference. This, if I had a guess, this bike is probably retailing somewhere around about $800 to $900 new now. You can probably find a used one in this, pretty good condition, about half that, if not a little bit less. The used market has actually dropped pretty low now, so a lot of those people have bought bikes during the COVID and realized they didn't get into cycling, which is unfortunate, or they didn't have a very good experience, is selling those bikes now. And for example, I was buying full carbon bikes around about $700 to $1,000. Now I'm seeing those drop down to like $300. So that gives you kind of perspective that if you're looking at getting some bikes, and if you don't mind doing a little bit of research and look into the used market, knowing that you'll need to probably do a tune-up or have it professionally done after that purchase, you're still going to be way ahead. For example, this is like a $800 or $900 bike, new. The caveat is you can probably pick up one of these between the $200 to $300, have it tuned up, and still be under the $500 threshold, where you're still getting a really good bike. It's really solid, and the technological differences on this particular dual sport hybrid style really hasn't changed too terribly over the years, with the 5 or 10 years. Just look, if you're going to do disc brakes, try to get the hydraulics. Those are a little better performing, that kind of nature, but they are more mechanically, you need an expert type abilities of working on it, so might have to take to a bike shop. Mechanical ones are more garage or shady tree mechanic, safe or easier. I wouldn't say safe per se, but a little more easier to work on, but you don't have the performance factor, but you do get a little bit wider tire clearances and so forth. So there's pros and cons of all. The other big pros and cons between buying used and new New, you get the warranties and all that. When you buy a used bike, all those warranties are pretty much void. So keep that in mind, but that's where I lose the savings. Well, anyway, co-op, house brands from REI and, you know, more of a volume brand at Dick's Sporting Goods. Very similar. I mean, that particular bike had pretty close to the same kind of componentry. This is an 8-speed versus a 9-speed. A little difference there. Both had hydraulic brakes, but this one had Shimano hydraulics versus Tektro, which is more of a bulk volume kind of brake, but quite honestly, they're kind of built all in the same area. So the performance factors, and they all put a lot of tech into them, and they kind of mimic each other's competition's tech. So even though I wouldn't shy away from a bike that has Tektro hydraulics, not by any means. Even with the Suntour fork, same thing. Because to get into the rack shock of this style of fork, the fork itself is going to be about as much as the bike. So hey, and what you're looking at, the performance on these is just a little bit of cut in the actual vibration and bumpiness and all that kind of deal. So you're still going to get the same effect there as comfort wise, and then you're going to have your comfort points like your grips, your saddle, if you go to clipless pedals, that kind of thing too. But other than that though, this is an awesome bike. Great commuter, recreational bike, bike paths. If you want to take it, go camping and do light roads, single moderate trail riding, definitely this is a great awesome bike for doing all those kinds of things. This one actually is outfitted with a little trailer mount, which is kind of cool. So they're going to be pulling the trailer. This one also, as a note, did not have quick releases. I would have to look at the specs to see if it was, but this has a bolt-on quick release style. Just means that kind of a safety prevention if you're going to be rolling it up to like Walmart and parking in the parking lot and you're not worried about your wheel being taken off or stolen. That usually slows those down. You can buy those as an aftermarket too, those bolt-on style, keep the wheels on your bike. Same thing for the quick, colleges and so forth. All the things that not mounted securely are going to disappear. Unfortunately, that's just, it is what it is. But yeah, this beauty, actually burgundy color, that ceramic coating. I used a little bit less expensive ceramic coating. I picked it up from Walmart for bikes like this because they didn't pay for the premium package for using the higher grade. But it still does perform pretty well and is better than nothing in a sense too. But also provides a really nice clean look, shine, and added protection from the UV. In any case, have any like house brands that you've come across and that seem to work really well for you or not, from like REI, Dick's Sporting Goods, or Shields? Throw them in the comments below. It'd be kind of interesting to see what you may have come across, or if you have a co-op or Navara. They've made some decent bikes. I mean, pretty they're all over out there, so keep in mind the Navara is going to be a little older models, the co-ops are a little bit more on the newer models, but there are the REI house brands. In any case, well, thanks for hanging out with me in the garage. I'll have added information in the description below. Please throw some comments if you have anything related or questions and so forth. That's awesome. This is a community, and for this channel would not be here without you. So thank you for watching. In addition to, if it's nice in your neck of woods, please go for a ride. It's nice. I think I'm going to go for a ride now because it's just, garage is open. It's beautiful. 80-degree day. Love the Colorado weather. Anyway, thanks again for hanging out with me. And before you go, check out these pictures in the sun and the final result of this beautiful co-op of REI. Have a great day. Garage door. Yeah. It really is a garage.